Hello, everyone. Good morning,
Good
or
morning.
good evening, wherever it is, wherever you are. Yeah. You know what it's all about, I guess?
Mm.
Talking about the same thing, which is no thing, and it is the natural state. Saying as natural, as meaning as in nature. And we call nature this cosmos, or this world that's going on all around us. Naturally, effortlessly, in all sorts of different patterns, shapes and forms, and all sorts of different ways.
Mm.
But every pattern, shape and form or appearance is expressing it.
Yeah.
And it's divided up by the conceptual idea, which we call thought.
Mm.
It's all ways patterning, shaping, forming in the pairs of opposites. And if we didn't have any words or labels on those opposites, what would it be? It would be the one essence, patterning, shaping, forming, and appearing and expressing as everything.
Mm.
And I say appearance, and that's what we call this phenomenal manifestation. They call it a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena, as I understand it, is that which appears to be. So it's only seemingly so. It's just like the play on the screen, or the picture, the movie on the screen. It can be very interesting, it can be very ugly, it can be all sorts of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But the screen itself, which is no thing, has never been contaminated or corrupted by anything that seemingly appears on it. Just like the ocean appears to be blue, but it's never ever had, the water has never ever been blue, never will be or never could be. But it gives you that, as soon as you look at it from a distance or somewhere, it appears. The space appears to be blue.
Mm.
Water in a mirage, all these different metaphors they use to point out. And when I say they, there's no they, but have been used down through the ages through different patterns, shapes and forms. And it's in having recognised it, that particular pattern, can't help but try to pass it on to some other pattern that's seemingly still locked into the belief that it's a separate entities, persons or individuals. But there never ever was any separation, and no individual. It's always the totality, or as they call it, the absolute, or the great perfection. And the Buddhists when they call it the great perfection, give it to you in one sentence. The great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Now that screen, they call it awareness. But awareness is just another label. Can you say what awareness is? Call it wakefulness, you can call it this, call it that. But the only thing recognised is you are not unaware right in this moment. So it doesn't matter what awareness is, if you don't recognise you're not, there's a knowing or a wearing or awakening or whatever label or concept you like to put on it there. And you're not non-being right now. You are being. And you're not becoming. No, we think we're becoming this, becoming that. So, when they call it in Hinduism the sport of Shiva, the dance of Shiva, this consort Shakti, it's a sport, it's a play, or they call it the play of consciousness. Consciousness which appears in that awareness also. So it's all that. And that's innately what we know. Because we say that's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the tree. Look outside, oh, that's the cloud, that's the sun, that's the earth we're sitting on and standing on, or whatever, that's the sofa, chair we're sitting on. Everything is that which we've discriminated with the word. And the word is just a label. The word's not the thing. Take the word water. Can you drink it, swim in it, drown it, wash in it? You can't. The word fire won't burn your mouth. You can't cook with it or eat yourself with it. So what's this word I or me? We've taken to believe this persona. And that word persona comes from that Latin persona, meaning the mask, which we've broken it down over the years to person. And taking to be the person, this seeming separate entity, which are called I or me. Instead of being I am that absolute, now I've become the person. I am this person, Bob. And it's labelled more labels on. I'm an Australian, I'm a good fellow, or not so good, or I'm unhappy, I'm fearful. Broken down into lesser and lesser things. And it's that vibrating, what I call intelligence energy, or the activity of knowing, that vibrates into different patterns, shapes and forms. And realise from that every word you've ever spoken, or ever likely to speak, has been picked up or learnt. You were not born with any words. Realise that yourself. When did you begin? You'll say, I was born. But can you remember your birth? Can you remember actually coming out of the womb? How can you? Because you didn't have any words to say. It was the womb I'm coming out of, and it was coming out head first, or this, that. You just arrived. And the living has gone on ever since then. But with the capacity of reasoning developed in it, we've learnt words. And the words, very useful, wonderful information can come out of it, and all sorts of inventions and so-called. It's also, being a vibration, it's also all the unhappiness, fear, disaster, and everything else that's come out of it by dividing it up. And that'd be all right, that division wouldn't be so bad if we weren't relating it to a believed in conceptual image or pattern it takes delivery. It'd be just like nature if it wasn't labelled. Earth rolling around the sun, tides coming in and out. So nature's not saying it's winter now and I've got to get to summer, or it'll be spring in future time and I've got to do this and make the heat, or I've got to cause the trees and the flowers to start blooming. I've got a big job ahead of me. It's not saying that at all. It's just coming about and it's happening by itself. When you recognise that the word's not the thing, or not the real, and I say you, or whoever I'm using that just for the sake of words trying to express it or explain it, and see it for yourself, because nobody is ever going to do it for you. Though we've set up saints, sages, saviours, seers, formed traditions, great religions and traditions around it, thinking that we'll get the answer through them, but we don't get the truth. It can only come about through your own investigation and recognition. And some of those traditions you get the starting them, to realise that there's something more than this persona, than this believed in entity. The persona, and that's what moved you into looking into them properly, or beyond them, to seeing what the answer is. And it's only in that recognition and understanding, or realisation, or what's the other one? Enlightenment, if you like to call it those things. In the recognising that you really know anything about it. Up until that point, we're living in that constant belief. We're beginning to become something. And then we start worshipping some other seeming power which divide the omnipotence, the total power, the omnipresence, the total presence, and the total intelligence up into separate entities, not realise they've never been separate. They need to be reckoned on into and seen deeply by recognising that and negating the appearance that it's always been that totality. It always was, always will be, and never could be anything else. And so whether you see it or not in this moment, start from that fact that I am already and always the Absolute, or the great perfection. And then again, and seeing, looking into some of these concepts, which are mental constructs. A mental construct is only a thought, thought's only a sound, sound's a vibration vibration's a movement of energy. Just like this body-mind is nothing but the elements, air, earth, fire, water, space, and those elements can be broken down into subatomic particles into no thing. So it's a seeming something coming from no thing, because that's all we are. We put labels and forms and saying we're these persons, body, mind, and somebody think you're just a think. We don't like to take that on board. We're only a thing. Yeah. But all the manifestations are things only. The tree's a thing, the flower's a thing, the chair's a thing, you're a thing, I'm a thing, the picture on the wall's a thing, everything is a thing. Appearing on that basic screen, which is no thing. Space, like awareness they call it, like space. Space is empty. But is it a thing? Can you give it some centre, or some circumference, or some pattern, shape or form to say it's a thing? You can't. So it's no thing on which all things are simply appearing, patterning, shaping and forming in. Can something, like you and me, I think, come from no thing? We believe we're here as some separate thing. We can't. And can the no thing be anywhere except in the believed in something? So just like as the Sagata tells you, nothing can trouble you except your own imagination. When you look into that and break it down to imagine or image in, you look in the mirror, what do you see? Images in the mirror or reflections. Now, like the mirror becomes the seeming screen, if you like to use that analogy, in which everything is appearing in, because that mirror is always constantly full of reflections or images. The space is reflected in it, and what's in the space is reflected in it. It's all mental, it's all images like that appearing in our mind. So you can't say those images are not there. You'll see a reflection of your own face or an image in the mirror. Go up and try and grab it. You won't be able to. So it's seemingly there, but you try to grasp it, you can't say it is there. So you can't say it is or it is not. So you can't say there's something or no thing in this manifestation. They're just like appearances in it. But it's believed to be real, and it's taking on this seeming reality, and we function from that seeming reality and suffer accordingly because of that belief. Now, if you know it's a seeming reality, and let it all happen by itself, and realising it's all transient, it's all constantly changing, and realising that in this waking state and believed in state we are the essence, we think we're changing things. We think we're fixing things. We're not in it. But it's happening by itself. That breath you just took, did you stop and say, wait a minute, I've got to take a breath? You didn't. And the heart that's expanding and contracting in that body, if it wasn't expanding and contracting, you wouldn't last very long, like the air would. You're not saying, I've got to beat my heart. I've got to digest the food that's giving me the energy for this life to function. Not saying any of these things. See how much is spontaneously, naturally, and effortlessly happening in that thing you call the body. Try and find a doer or a persona or a masked entity that's doing anything. When you say, I think, we've taken on board that there's a thinker. But what's your next thought going to be? Can this thinker that you believe yourself to be know what the next thought is? It can't. But you realise thinking is happening. The thought will come up. But we're related to this so-called I thought, I think, the persona. So now this so-called persona, this mask, a conceptual image, thinks it has the capacity of thinking. And I'm thinking this thought. So the thought has become something opposite to the thinker, something other than the thinker. But can there be this thinker without the thinking? There can't be. There can't be the thought I think without thinking, and there can't be what the thought is. The chair, the table, I think the chair, without the thinking. So there's no separation, no division. Same with the seer. I see. I go out there and I see this and I see that. But can the thought I see, a thought, again, I see, actually see? Well, we believe it, we see. When we say I see, we formed a conceptual image. A seer. A seer that now thinks it's seeing. But can there be the seer without seeing? Or the seen without seeing? There can't be. So seer and seen are concepts. The word seer and the word seen, they're concepts, thinker and thought. But they're actually taking place in the seeing. Same with the hearing, the tasting, the touching, the feeling. The ing on all that gives it something that's happening in the immediacy. Seeing is happening right now, isn't it? Have you stopped seeing? Thinking is happening right now. Thinking is, there might be a pause which is not being noticed and which should be noticed and not be. Feeling is happening. It's all functionings going on there spontaneously, naturally and effortlessly. And what's happened with it? Instead of being like the earth rolling around the sun, not saying I'm rolling around the sun and I'm facing the sun at this moment, so it's daylight on the east side and there's darkness on the other side. The earth's not saying that. It's just rolling and continuing to roll around the sun. The tides are continuing to come in and out. Nature's not labelling all of these things. They're just spontaneously and naturally happening. And when I say the natural state, you are in essence nature. Try and separate yourself from nature. If you think of that as personal entity out there, what would you live in? If there wasn't a space to appear in and live in, there wasn't a seeming emptiness there, where could you live, how could you live, and what could you live as? So you're not separate from anything at all. But the sense of separation, instead of seeing it as it is the totality itself in different pattern shapes. We've isolated it. Isolation and loneliness and separation and division, which is the cause of anxiety, stress, guilt, fear, depression, unhappiness. All words we've learned, all labels we put on it, all the belief we've gone into it, and it's seemingly so. Instead of pure feeling, it now becomes a guilty feeling or an angry feeling or a shameful feeling or a remorseful feeling. How do you know? Well, we learnt those words and they fit those words we learned. This one's anger. When that tantrum comes upon you or whatever it is, you know. And then we call it anger. We call the next one fear because it stirs up the bodily functionings. The hair stirs, the goose pimples arise and all the rest of the hair stands on end with fear. With anger, the body temperature goes up, you get in a rage and all the things. And we label these feelings and it upsets the equilibrium that is in that life essence in the pattern. And some of it might be necessary for the functioning in the growing. Otherwise it wouldn't appear to be there. But none of it lasts for very long. It's all continually transient, changing. But when you fixate on something, what are you doing? We keep it there. We fixate on something and may it last. Gone out of the spontaneous into the conceptual time-bound duration of something. The longer we fixate on it and pour the energy of thought, feeling and emotion into it, the longer it's going to hang around. And the worse it's going to, and that continue to affect the pattern, the physical pattern, the body. And the body, full of anxiety, stress, guilt, shame, and remorse, becomes uneasy, which is dis-ease. And dis-ease manifests. We can take on board all sorts of things that are functioning, appearing to function, pattern in this manifestation. All life forms, viruses and plagues and sicknesses and illness, they're all life forms, got somewhere to live. And they find the pattern that's obviously easy to penetrate and easy to take place in. Follow the natural functioning and the rules of exercise, eating, sleeping, doing, probably not the set rules we made, but the natural rules of life, which is fixating on us all, and see what happens. See what happens. So the thing is to look in, or we say look in, but look and recognise. Am I this body? Am I this mind? When already innately, and I mean innately, it's already known. You are not the body, because you'll be saying I body, I mind. But you don't say I body, I mind, you say my body, my mind, my coat, my car, my house. What are you relating it to? Instead of relating it to the totality, relating to this conceptual image, this reference point that I made up, this conceptual image, me, Bob, the Australian. It's me. It's my thought. It's my feeling. It's my seeing. It's my hearing. It's my unhappiness. It's my depression. It's me that the world's against. And instead of functioning, going with the flow, functioning, relaxing into it, and let it take you where it will, we're constant resistance. And resistance is conflict. You want to be in conflict? When we're all looking for peace, or believe we are, we don't want the conflict, we want the peace, don't we? We want the joy, the happiness that arises in that peace. The joy, the happiness, that doesn't arise in the anger, in the depression, in the guilt. It's the background in which it all appears, however you say it was there. But it's not. But it's been taken over by the anger, the feeling. So they say, they tell you that in the scriptures, you won't find the answer in the mind. And that's hard to believe because we looked so long in the mind, realise that every direction we've always looked at is always in the mind. We think we're going to work it out. We've worked out so many things with the mind. It's been very useful. But even to call it depression, unhappiness, and anger and fear, that's worked out in the mind too. That's the concepts the mind puts in it, which vibrates in the opposite. Why do they say you won't find the answer in the mind? Because of people, somebody so-called pattern, shapes and forms have recognised it, which the great traditions have formed around them, and recognise that you'll never ever get peace of mind. What's peace? It's silence, it's stillness, it's emptiness, it's clarity. Has your mind ever been like that? Has it? The moments when the clarity's been there is when the mind has been in abeyance for a while. But we don't realise that's where we need to be. We go back into the thoughts, into the concepts. Oh, I'll do this next meditation or this practice or that practice, and I'll get it then. I'm getting closer to it. When you try and still the mind, naturally, you get a bit of a bit of stillness. It feels better. You know where to go. But you keep going on in the mind instead of letting it happen by itself, trying to make it happen, and it doesn't. So they tell you the peace that when the mind is not, that's what they call it, the peace that passes all understanding. Now what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand life. As this Patanjali says, it's right understanding. And the Sagara tells you understanding is all. Is that right? Understanding. Trying to grasp it with the understanding. But you can't grasp it with a concept. Now when we've got this myself, see what we've done? Instead of being which they tell you, in all the texts will tell you, there's only one self, one Atman, one self, one God, if you like to use that term. We've called it myself. We've set ourselves up as a lesser being, as a person that needs to worship this other God and try and get to it. But then, why does it happen? Because that totality doesn't like being divided. It's not happy with it. So I'll teach this bloke a lesson. He'll have to suffer a little bit. I am that until he recognises that. That's bullshit too, but it's a good story. So that's what we need to do, is to recognise that I am not this body, I am not this mind. And we're looking in the mind, so will I continue to practice, to continue to meditate, to continue to look there? When I realise, what way is there out of the mind? If I ask that question, if I'm looking in the mind and never found the answer, maybe the answer's not in the mind. That might just dawn on me. Well, I've looked there earnestly and sincerely for many years, done all sorts of things, and trying to look for it with the thoughts, twisted them this way, that way, up, down, and but never found the answer. Might have just dawned on me, well, I've looked in earnest and sincerely, maybe I've been looking in the wrong direction. A simple recognition like that, well, maybe I've been looking in the wrong direction. Then it'd come up, well, yeah, what if that's so? I've looked in every other direction in the mind. That's the only way out of the mind is what? Full stop. Full stop, or period, as they say in America, is don't go there. Just don't go there. And if I don't go there, I can't say I'm in the mind anymore, can I? And then what might happen? Well, what happened here, there was a recognition that prior, without going into the mind, I was prior to the mind. Because though we've got this belief without the mind we can't exist, without the mind, when the thought was paused, well, you know for yourself, for instance, when you give up the mind every night, if you really thought you were not this mind, you were this mind, I should say, you wouldn't give it up every night when you go to sleep, but you give it up without hesitation. You love to give it up. No answer in the mind, what happens? So I must be prior to it. And I realise you are prior to the mind when thought is in abeyance. Because have you stopped breathing? Has your heart stopped beating? Has your hair and fingernails stopped growing? Has your food stopped being digested? The functioning is still going on. Spontaneously, naturally and everything. And then the thought comes upon that. The thought, not after it, comes upon it. That life has got to be there first, which points out that you can be nothing other than life. Not the body, which is suffused with life, not the mind, which is suffused with life, not on this earth, which is suffused with life. You are the life itself that's suffusing, patterning, shaping and forming that. That's what the so-called God is, if you like to call it God. But we lose sight of it when we make words. That's what it tells you in the Bible. In the beginning was the Word. That was all functioning naturally, spontaneously and everything. Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, were in paradise, and everything else was going spontaneously and naturally. But they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In the beginning was the Word was with God. The Word was with God. The words come from the God, like everything else does. The Word was God. So that's all that God is a word.
Yes.
But as soon as we put that word God on it, we've separated it. Instead of saying it's a pure intelligence entity, the absolute, the totality, the great perfection, the non-conceptual, ever-present presence of awareness, omnipotence, omnipresence, omnipotence. It's that and that only. They're all labels we put on, which discriminate it. Instead of that, we've taken on some traditional belief and gone into that and thinks that's going to give us the answer. And people will get there through that, some. But most of them, like I think it was, I don't know whether it was one of them, who was a Bhakti, who worshipped the God, he says, by worshipping the form, by praying to the idol or the mantra or the God or whatever, I attained the formless. So he was one that got through it, through the practice, through the worship and all of it, managed to see through it. And a lot have done it too, through that. But it's seeing through it, the formless that's prior to it. That's what needs to be reckoned, not staying in it, thinking he's going to give you this, do that for you and do that. That's why I don't belong to any particular tradition or religion. I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Muslim, I'm not a Hindu, I'm not a Buddhist, I'm not a Calithumbarian or any of the other religions around, an agnostic or an atheist. But I can because of this recognition, and this is what will happen to you, you'll recognise the truth in all of them. There are certain parts of quotes and things like that that point to the truth, and in recognising the truth in all of them, you'll take the truth and leave the rest. You don't want the rest of the bullshit, the prayers and the other things going on. Take the truth and leave the rest. And that's the scriptural saying. It tells you, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. What are you free from? There's only one thing you need to be free from, the belief that you are this persona, this separate entity, and the belief that there is anything separate and apart from that. And in the words we've learnt, with the meanings, it can be very useful. Have a look at that and look up the dictionary with definition of belief. It's an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Except, instead of trying to reason things out, we've taken it on board, which we've taken on the word that we are this person from our parents, our schools. We've taken on the word that this is anger, this is fear and everything like that without investigating and looking into it. Though the psychologists and neurologists all start looking to those things today, they got a story about them, and that story will keep going. And they never get beyond the story. So there, a belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in their reason, acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. So instead of trying to reason it out, we haven't reasoned, we should have a look into it, reason, and see this alleged fact we've taken on board. Is it real? And that's another thing they point out, that the false cannot stand up to investigation. And you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work that out either. When you look into something and you look at it like you see the water in the mirage, you know there's no water there. It doesn't take you long to walk out that there never was water there, never will be. When you see the blue sea and you know the water's not blue, you're not going to believe in it again. All these beliefs we've taken on, the snake and the rope, little things like that they point out in the scriptures. Fella sees, steps on a piece of wet rope and he believes it's a snake because it runs under his feet. When he shines a torch on it, it says it's only a piece of wet rope. Now that belief has caused the fear and the trembling to rise up in the body. Goose pimples arise, the hair stands on end, and he imagines, imagination comes in, the poison racing through his veins, and all the rest of it causing and the death coming upon him, and the fear and the trembling get worse. And someone shines a torch, look, it's only a piece of wet rope. And he says, there's a big sense of relief in seeing it. But the fear and the trembling don't drop off straight away, understand that. Because they've stirred up bodily functions, and they take a little bit longer to settle down. But we don't let them settle down. We go back into them, instead of waiting and seeing what's beyond them, we stir it up again and stir it up again and keep it there a lot longer what we could have. And when the anger and the fear come up now, instead of seeing them fresh and new, we immediately relate them to the old feeling and latch onto something that is dead and been long since dead and take it to be believed. See everything fresh and new, you'll get a different taste on things. You'll understand what the meaning to life is and what life itself is. It is joyous, it is spontaneous, it is natural, it is effortless, and there's a sense of well-being in it, being well. Or as Nisargadatta puts it, he says there's nothing wrong anymore. If it's not wrong, it can't be right. It can be only as it is. And that isness, you'll get a fresh take on it, right in the moment. See it fresh and new. And you realise the well-being and joyousness in that. You'll understand why there's been a trying to point to it all along. And a lot of these world's problems will disappear. Because look at it how it is now. Everybody's got this idea of a separate entity, an individual, a person. And everybody, just the same as you walk into the room, you'll form a concept of everybody in the room. You look outside, you'll form a concept of the things you're seeing outside yourself. A concept, a thought, or a mental construct you'll form about it. And you've got this concept or mental construct about yourself that you've reinforced day in, day out for years. Now, when you ask to look at that and investigate, and they say, which of these concepts would be right? Am I this body, this mind? That's a concept? No. If I'm not that, am I this person? No. Is that person out there, is he anything other but a concept? No. And are those trees, flowers and birds and everything other than a concept? No. Which concept's right? And you believe there's no concept that's right. Well then, from that point of view, who can ever be superior to you? Who do you have to look up to or worship or bow down to? Who do you have to fear? Right. Who can ever be inferior to you? And what would you want of the other persons? If you know the absolute totality is looking after you, it's breathing you, beating your heart, the more it's recognised, the more it's locked into and resonated with, the more effortlessly it provides for you. It brings to that pattern what is necessary for its functioning. Isn't it bringing the air to you now, even though you're supposed to wear a mask and they're going to cut it off on you? Isn't it beating your heart? Isn't it growing your hair in your fingernails? And isn't it bringing those viruses to you because they won't live in a healthy body, but they go for the weak body and all the rest of it. All the sicknesses and illnesses do. But they need a place to live too. And they do live and prosper and function for a while. So that's what I point out and ask you to look along that direction. Got any questions, any doubts, any arguments? And that's what's necessary to happen. Doubts will come up and you'll say, this is a lot of crap. Good, it was a lot of crap. Go along your merry way. And if something asks you, well mate, I'll have a look at this, and you start to look, and you might begin to realise or recognise things, and that's another word. realise, recognise the reality of it, recognise. But I call it a cognising emptiness. We think because of that we're cognising or knowing this emptiness. That's another term for cognising, is knowing it, aware of it. But it's not that we are cognising, it's the emptiness itself. That no thing which suffusing, patterning, shaping and vibrating as everything is cognising, has the capacity of cognising. And the Buddha told you that when he said that emptiness is form. Pointing out it is the emptiness that's doing the cognising. And it's recognising the forms. And the forms that are doing the recognising can anything be other than that also. So it's still only the emptiness, again. Something and nothing. So, question, don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't be fearful of what you think somebody might think of you, think you've got some silly question, or don't understand it. And a lot of you are already resonating with it and recognising it and know it. So let it out, don't hesitate, try and keep hiding that. Let it out, because the way it's expressed there might be in totally different form to what it's expressed there, and somebody else that can't recognise what's being said here will recognise from what you see. That's why all the different traditions are out there, different pattern shapes and forms and expressions of it, and people can recognise it in its different pattern shapes and forms. So away you go. Thank you.
I'll come here because I don't want to kick the cat out of the chair. Hi everyone. We got a few comments. I hope I'll get them from the beginning. Yes, so Amarnath, that was the first one. Mask or persona is put all together, waking or dream state, which is impossible, can't become, but appearance can be there as a person. Yeah, that's it. That's just an appearance, nothing else. Rohan says, and when the feelings are fixated upon, they generate other feelings also. For example, if anger arises, then guilt can arise afterwards. Why did I get angry? I shouldn't have, etc. And so it goes on. As Bob says, if we full stop, then we put an end to the carry on.
Yes, and that generation that Rowan's pointed out, it generates this, it becomes the thinking, the story.
The story.
So all the stories start from the beginning, see the beginning now.
Yes.
All the stories always in words, concepts.
Now we have a comment from Brett. As you were speaking, Bob, and I listening, the sound of your voice became my inner dialogue. The words you were saying dance into my thinking. There is the edge. Where is the edge of sound? Where is the diameter of thought or understanding? I became you and no thing at the same time. I dissolved and evolved into oneness, both light and dark, up and down, square and round. Thank you.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
And those words you were seemingly hearing from here was that also.
That's it. Yes. Yeah.
That's
beautiful.
right.
Dancing, responding. Yeah. You lose the sense of your separate personal self. So everything's yours.
Yeah.
Every sound, every taste, everything. That's body of yours is the whole universe. Now Amarnath. Division equals duality equals mind equals non-investigation equals ignorance. Thanks for this, Bob.
Very succinct. How do you say the word succinct? Very right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all
Beautiful.
all in that little statement you made.
Just an essence of the truth. Brilliant. And then Rohan, when pondering with constant vigilance upon the actual nature of the mind, one finds that there is no such thing as mind. This, in truth, is the straight path for all. That's Ramana Maharshi.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's been there for, forever.
Yeah, that's from Bill. Lovely to be still with you. Yeah, keep that Facebook, Bill. We will get back to you.
Love you, Bill.
Yes. And Tanya, thought is not needed for functioning. Thought is definitely not experiencing anything. Good point. How could thought experience anything? How could sound experience anything? To experience it would need to have some sort, like the experience the way we know the experience, the sensory experience. To experience the sights, the sounds, the touch, it needs the organs. So of course it doesn't have any, it can't experience anything. Well, perhaps it, on some deepest level, it also loves to be, because everything's loving to be, but not in a way that we experience experiences as sensations translated to the perceptions or sounds or perceptions generally. Amarnath, peace equals what we are without thought and effort. Papaji. Yeah, peace is what we are without thought and effort. Yeah, well said. Amarnath, dear Bob, we want your view on death, body-mind, actually non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak on death non-existing? There is no death.
No.
Yeah.
What was born?
Yeah.
Only the thought I am. Because you can't remember your birth.
Yeah.
And if you can't remember your birth, you think you'll remember your last breath? You can't. It's only conceptual from there on. And if you had no words when you were born, without the life in the body, how many words are you going to have after? So how can you reincarnate? Where can you go? But it doesn't mean to say that the patterning, manifesting shapes and forms, won't continue as a pattern, shape and form. But who's going to claim it as I have another life?
Yeah.
When I don't have this one. But I am life itself. There is only life. There's no division in it whatsoever.
Yeah, they say everything that has the beginning has an end. But does the body really have the beginning? If you look back, where did it begin? Did it begin when the sperm and ovum met? No, they actually were already the potentiality. Like, did the tree begin when the seed sprouts? There is no beginning or an end.
Did the space begin at some time or other?
Yeah.
Or is it spontaneous?
Yeah.
Just beginning right now.
Yeah, so nothing that has birth will have death. We can argue that there was a beginning of the I thought or identification, can't pinpoint it. So that there is an end of I thought or identification every night when you go to sleep. So it's not really a death. Yeah, but it is a good concept, because provided all psychology says that every fear is some sort of coming from the fear of death or fear of annihilation. But annihilation is only an idea in the head. Like, it can't be conceived, and when there is no one to be worried about annihilation, who is there to fear? What is there to fear? It's a pretty incredible idea, fueling the whole consumerism of the civilization, because to medicate that fear, practically everything comes up, the drugs and the possessions and money and power and control, everything to just feel a little bit more secure. And yeah, all because of the idea. We have Larry, on fire, Bob, full stopping this joint pretty well. Julia, powerful talk, Bob, says Jessie. And Julia, I'm running out of questions. Only gratitude and love. Wonderful.
Good.
Jane, full of energy today. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Jane.
Amarnath, thanks, Bob Lion, for finishing me. Concept as pray. Really, it's our infinite grace and love. You've got a way with words. That's a nice mental image.
So get them out there. She wants to get them out there, and people will hear them.
Yes. Tanya, thank you for the wonderful spiel today. Not really any questions here at the moment. Cool. Theodore, I resonate with your teaching, yet I have long relapses thinking I am a person, and a lot of energy is wasted.
Nothing's ever wasted.
Yeah, it's just a play. It's how you say, Shiva's sport or Shakti dance. Yeah, Leela. It's that true nature of yours. It's not touched.
The semen, when it's seemingly not stop looking or it's not going there, it keeps growing. And once you've had a taste of it, it continues to grow. I've had people come back here 30 years later, but they couldn't eat one. Then it's growing in them over the time. And naturally, when it's seen through, it must be seen through more and more. You can't really, once you see something as false, you can't really go back and believe in it again. And keep coming and recognising the falseness of it. It'll be more, like, as I say, when the clouds thin out over the sun, there's naturally more clarity.
Yeah.
Until the sun, the warmth of the sun and the wind blows the clouds away, and there's full clarity there.
And Theodore, also you can give him a call. Just go on his website and click on the email and schedule a time, because we don't know where you are. But yeah, it always kind of, it's always nice to have customized one-on-one guidance. And he loves it. It's an option. Adrian, thank you, amazing Bob. I like your comment that the totality doesn't like being divided. It can't digest it. Haha. It seems that suffering is actually a pointer back to the recognition. Yeah.
Thanks, Adrian.
Yeah, totality can't be divided. It can only dream or imagine it is, and that's only just to find its own oneness through the apparent.
Good to see you doing the exercises and having clients. Good.
Yeah, you speak there. He will see you there when you speak. And Larry, hey Bob, would you consider holding a Zoom session at a time that would work for those of us in the States? We were actually talking about it and thinking, and we put it out there a couple of times, and there was literally 2 ladies that really were interested in it. So we can do that if we can, like, tomorrow, Saturday, we were thinking with Julia and Sydney that Saturday, that same time as today, would probably be good for Americans. We have few Americans joining us at their early morning, at their 4:30 or 5:30 in the morning. And possibilities there always. But because we only had, Julia is in touch with us a couple of times a week.
Jessie?
Yeah.
Jessie's in America.
Not Jessie, that was Sydney, Julia's girlfriend, who also wanted to do it.
So because Jessie is in America.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's quite a few people, but we posted out once that if there are people who would be interested in joining the Zoom, then we are happy to, Bob would be happy to do that. I'll be happy to help. But because there was one person apart from Julia, we said, look, we can actually see you one-on-one. We can just have a Skype call, because to make Zoom for one person is as easy as make Skype call for one person. But yeah, if there is an interest, absolutely. But if there will be only you, yeah, just give Bob a call. And then John David, when mind is imbibed with the discernment that there is only one, nothing else remains to be done. For the one who realizes that he is everywhere, no further spiritual practice is necessary. And that's from Siddha Rameshwar Maharaj, from Master of Self-Realization.
Yeah. That's the Sagarada's teaching.
Yeah.
Right on the ball, yeah.
Yeah. Who is the woman answering questions? Marco is asking. Hi Marco, I'm Kat. I'm nobody. And and I'm his wife too. Kat HK, thank you. Lovely to listen to Kat. Thank you, Kat.
Who's that?
Kat HK.
Oh,
Carl, this past week the topic of communication has been on my mind. Words, of course, have no inherent reality in and of themselves, yet are essential for our relating to one another in the world. How just lost it. 1 second. How do we best share and communicate in a way that most clearly reflects the depth of meaning and understanding that we hold within, while knowing that words will only ever be pointers to that which they can never touch? Or did I just kind of answer my own question?
yeah. You just let what comes out spontaneously.
P.S. Postscriptum, we missed you.
See, you don't know how the so-called seemingly other is going to hear it or grasp it, you know. Sometimes something I've said here I thought was a lot of rubbish, other people have heard it, you know.
Yes. Yes, and yeah, that is...
It's not the word itself, it's really, you know, it's really the essence that's in it, like the resonance, or whatever coming from the life essence that's enabled the word, which is, that's all the word is a vibration pattern of intelligence energy, you know, coming from the one essence. Well, whatever in that, it doesn't matter what the actual word's saying. If somebody's open enough to hear it, they will hear it in their own way and resonate with it, and that resonation will take them further.
Yeah, it is actually just remembering the limitations of the words. It's a good answer that you gave to yourself. Another way which I found really, really helpful is to actually, if you want to convey the message, do it through actually asking questions, because that wisdom, that knowing is innate in every one of us. Everyone was a baby once, and we didn't have any words. We had no concepts that would separate us from the rest of the universe. So that knowing is still there, the knowing of being, the knowing of existence, and this is all there. And sometimes it's quite amazing how people find the way. Need your hand? Oh, you're good. Okay. Here. Yeah. So everyone knows it, and by asking questions, you may actually be surprised how person you try to point something found the same truth in a completely different set of concepts, how they already innately understand it. And this way you learn their own language, and once you know their own language, it is much safer to use it. It takes a little bit more of effort, but if the love is there, and as Bob says, the frequency underlying the words, the peace, the joy that lies under the message, because nobody likes to be fixed, or nobody likes to be told or to be taught, like, look, you're wrong. This is like, you know, that sort of energy is not. But
see,
yeah.
When I got to Nisargadatta, you know, and he told me I wasn't the body, I wasn't the mind. Now I'd heard that a million times. Yeah, that's all right, blah blah blah. But when I got to him, something about whatever it was, it resonated, and I saw clearly through it that I wasn't it, and that was the end of it. Yeah. And I heard say a lot of things before that. I'd heard many times, you know. The clarity wasn't there. It's something in the resonation of them, or what it comes through, or what it's said through, you know, makes the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, so Caroline sends love, and Adrian is asking if I put the account for donation. No, actually I didn't, Adrian. I just put the PayPal because that's kind of the easiest way today. So there is a PayPal to click on, and the donate button is in few places. And thank you, John, and thank you, Megan. We received your your donation today. Amarnath, dear Bob, it is said in scriptures, though it's imagination, but we want your view on Jnani might have personality while eating, mating and exercising, the etc. persona on pattern might look prominent.
What is it?
I'm not quite sure. Dear Bob, it is said in the scriptures that it's imagination, but we want your view on Jnani.
That's now.
Yeah, the wisdom. Jnani might have personality while eating, mating, exercising, etc. Persona or pattern may look prominent. Yeah, not Amarnath, if you could maybe reword the question a little bit, because not sure what the question is, sorry. So, Mukti says, I'm here and hearing the words, Bob, with no listener. There is no questions. Happy to be here.
Good.
Beautiful. And Marco, thank you, love and gratitude, here, apparently in Mexico. Thank you. And Amarnath is answering the question, who was I? No one. Husband, wife are absent in marriage, you're the love between the two, Nisargadatta Maharaj. You are the love between the two. That's beautiful. That is, yes, beautiful. We see you as everybody, Kat, not as nobody. Thanks for your grace. You are that. Yes, this is just a reflection. Whatever you see is a reflection of your infinite self. This is you too. This is you. This is all you. This is all just a reflection. Thank you. And Tanya says, same here, that she is hearing, but there is no one who hears what Mukti was saying. No listener. And Kat, Bob, you just answered my question about meeting Nisargadatta after I typed it and before I could send my message. Yeah, they're sweet little synchronicities. They kind of kiss of eternity. Michelle, how do you refer to body-mind? Do you still say I or me? How do you refer to it as not to identify with the me without the mind?
Well, the knowing for certainty that there's no me or no mind, so the functioning goes on the same way. It's not, doesn't mean anything to say I, me, or this, that, and that. Knowing the truth, that the words are just coming out, and to express them in proper manner where they can be understood, you use the same old terms.
Yeah.
But even to say I or me, if it's no, that's the totality anyway.
Yeah. And I is a sense of presence. I is a translation of that awareness of presence.
Yeah.
I is not a translation of shape and form, but the presence. Sometimes I like when Bob says, you say, my body, my car, my hat, my house. It means that the body belongs to that sense of presence, or the car, or the house. They are just...
Yeah. There's no me that can say it.
Yeah. Yeah, but definitely the words are being used, even though every word is just a symbol. It's not what it is. It's not it.
And we don't have to change the language.
Yeah. And Rachel, Jnani, enlightened one, still has personality, but is not attached. Aha, that might be what Amarnath was saying. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, that's a beautiful answer. That's clear the concept. Yes, everything, like, if you look at the animals, they don't have separate self. They don't imagine a narrative inside. There is a cat here lying next to Bob. And so they practically enlightened, one could say, because they don't believe in separate self that is running the show. And they definitely have the personalities. All that have its unique pattern. One could even say that, unique pattern in which the insects react to each other, or birds, or dolphins, or trees. Yeah, but there's no one who claims it. It doesn't say my personality, or my ego, or my self. Bill, realization is not the body-mind. That will never happen. At best, that will only be conceptual. The epiphany is when it is seen that the body-mind is a phantom, a dream, an imagination. Realization is freedom from the very idea of the body-mind. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's what we're saying all the time. Good.
Yeah, beautiful.
Good on you, Bill.
Good on you, Bill. Amarnath, sorry for the inconvenience. State of realized person while he is in act of sex, mating. Aha, okay, so that clarifies it. How do you feel when you have sex? Do you feel realized or not realized? Well, sex is just as much biological function of the body as breathing.
Yeah.
It is only the cultural narrative that demonizes sex as something dirty or something impure. There is nothing impure even about farting or defecating. It's just part of the functioning in nature. It does not. Well, one could say in this way, sex perhaps is a moment for not jnani, for anyone. Is a moment of forgetting oneself. If you have the epiphany, sexual orgasm, you don't really self at this point. You don't say, I'm having it, or this is mine. At this point, the whole attention explodes in that pleasure, in that whatever, serotonin overload, and there is no narrative. So at this moment, you could say sense of separation is not being sustained. But yeah, regarding certain clarity, I don't think you have much thoughts, do you? No, it's not. It's just.
Yeah. It only comes into mind like it's like we fixate it on all the time as so-called humans. It's on the TV, it's on the radio, it's in the books, it's everywhere. But I see a dog and a bitch can be lying together for weeks, and I couldn't care about anything. But then until the bitch comes on heat and season, then all the dogs in the neighbourhood go mad. But they're not fixated on all the time, so it takes its proper place. Procreating.
Yeah, everything has its place. There is no, at least in our case, there's no need to renounce anything or to judge anything as dirty and exclude from experiencing. We still eat yummy food, and yeah, it's just really the ultimate understanding is that you are already that. So whatever is happening in your life is already an expression of that. If sex is happening in your life, it's an expression of that. If celibacy is happening in your life, that's an expression of that. You are already that, underlying the narrative that may say otherwise. You are already a jnani, and your narrative doesn't even seem to say otherwise. You probably kind of realize that your clarity is quite profound. That's it. Michelle says, sorry, question girl is here. Yes, that's Michelle. Bob, how can it be, oh my God, to the sense of presence if it is everything?
Yeah, good one.
If it is everything, the sense of presence. how can it be OMG to the sense of
Feel
presence
home.
if it is everything? If the sense of presence is everything, how can it be?
How can it belong?
No, how can it be? OMG means oh my God.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not sure if if there is no spelling error here, because we're not quite sure again.
Isn't that just a saying they've taken on? Oh my God.
Yes.
Just the same as before that, it was also different sayings, all sorts of different sites.
Yeah.
I forget what they were now. But over the different periods of it, they had different sayings. It was
Amarnath, action without actor, thinking without thinker, happening spontaneously. That's right.
everything is spontaneous.
Absolutely. Yes, and that includes every activity. That includes mating and all that other stuff, which...
You see,
belong, yes. So Michelle meant belong. But how can it belong to the sense of presence if it is everything?
well, could it be anything else? The sense of presence is everything too.
Yeah. Yeah.
What can be separate from it?
Everything is, even the nothing is.
Yeah. So
That's presence.
you can't say it is, you can't say it isn't. There's something and the nothing.
Yeah.
You can't say it is something and you can't say it is nothing. Though it appears to be something and nothing.
Yeah, everything appears to be, so it is kind of part of the presence, and at the same time it only appears.
Can't say it's good or bad. It wasn't a vibration.
Yeah. Brett, you are we, they are me, together one, be. Beautiful. And John, could you speak about those who might hear the message and use it to continue acting in heartful ways to themselves and others in the name of the Absolute?
Well, if they're doing that, they haven't heard it.
And also, if they heard it, they understand there's no them, there's no they. Hearing the message means there is no one who hears it. And I don't, I heard that stories about Goebbels having Bhagavad Gita and justifying Holocaust. But again, if you have the person who has the story and needs the justification, that person is still completely imagined and is still completely living in the narrative.
If they've heard it and understand it, the whole thing will change.
Because if there is still someone who acts in the name of Absolute, that means that imagined someone is taking credit for the action in the Absolute.
Yeah, then it's just I am the chosen one. I think there's something special or particular.
Yeah.
Not seeing it all as one.
Yeah, but I hear your I hear that concern, because that concern is written all over. I mean, I only read a couple of things some 5 years ago on so-called Neo-Advaita, which says that you have to maintain your identity to maintain your responsibility, because losing identity justifies harm. Well, that in itself, that idea in itself shows lack of understanding, because there is ultimately just nature resolving itself.
Everything is no thing, nothing is no thing is everything. There's no separation, no that. It's all still going to appear in all its different diversity and variety, but no thing has ever happened.
Yeah.
Seemingly appears to be.
And see how the whole nature resolves itself in humans by having particular viewpoints or thoughts. Like, you know, that I heard from a friend who is a psychologist that there is a really, really big movement of a belief in extraterrestrial beings, like whatever, what was it, reptilians or light beings or Illuminatis or some other beings. And that thought is particularly connected with the psychedelics society. They literally believe into existence some terrible creatures that feed off human emotions, and of course by creating those images and believing them into being, they get angry, so they feed them and the loop is closed, and that anger breeds more anger, and one could say this can lead to the catastrophe. But where did that thought come from? Isn't that nature resolving itself? Including the thought of Holocaust, there is no separate person who has invented a thought, because separate person is a fiction. That idea also is a product of the whole environment, of the upbringing, of the diet, of the climate. Everything resolves itself. And they seem to be things that are really bad and cruel going on, you know. People are taken away their freedom, and even the thing that is going on around the whole pandemic, it creates a lot of responses in people, a lot of extreme emotions in people.
But it's only life.
But yeah,
There's only life. How many emotions or feelings or thoughts or divisions could there be if the life wasn't in that pattern? So it's life expressing itself in every way, shape and form.
yeah.
It's all appearance, only seemingly so.
And there are people who stand up to it and rebel and try to preserve whatever they believe, and that's also life.
Yeah.
There is, just one. Julia, Bob, it is normal for people to speak in acronyms these days.
Speak in what?
Speak in acronyms. I think she might mean that, Michelle missed one word. It was supposed to be belong, but there was the OMG, and I translated, oh my God, and there is a lot of different acronyms that people use in communication. That's just kind of that's how language evolves. That's a sidetracking. God, by all means attend to your duties. Action in which you are not emotionally involved and which is beneficial and does not cause suffering will not bind you. You might be engaged in several directions and work with enormous zest, yet remain inwardly free and quiet, with a mirror-like mind, which reflects all without being affected. That is from Nisargadatta Maharaj. Beautiful. Yeah, that's a good answer. Does this quote mean to not be emotionally involved in life? That is a good question.
But again, who's going to be emotionally involved in life?
Yeah.
If it's life doing all the questioning.
And you have no choice. Your pattern of personality may be such that certain music will evoke certain feelings, and they will be strong.
If emotions come up, fears come up, and all of that.
But
it's only life, still only life.
Who you truly are in nature is that emptiness, that space, that awareness, that loving to be, which holds and allows that pattern to express as emotionally as it is designed to respond. So you will engage with some things very emotionally, with some other things you will not. And you, who you truly are, is the allowance of all of these patterns to play out.
It's only the dreamer trying to affect the dream.
Yes. So ultimately, what Nisargadatta says, in which you are not emotionally involved and in which is beneficial. Ultimately, the space, the depth of your being, is not objecting to anything of what is going on the surface of your being. Like Nisargadatta used to smoke cigarettes. The depth of his being would not even object to that habit. It's like on the bottom of things. You are that nature which already says yes to whatever shows up, be it anger, be it sadness, be it emotional involvement in fulfilling your duties. All of this is, you don't have to have emotional reaction to your emotional reaction. You don't have to be angry that you got angry, or sad that you are sad, because ultimately the depth of the essence is completely indifferent and allowing, unconditionally allowing and loving whatever appears, involvement or non-involvement. Because you don't have saying, you will see how the body reacts. You can't decide to not be emotionally involved, and if it seems like you can from now decide to be so, you have to remember that that decision was inspired by the thought, perhaps, of Nisargadatta, so it wasn't really yours either. So you're not the doer. Dana, my grandmother used to say, Christ Almighty, not oh my God.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
Yeah, I heard Donna saying, holy cow, I liked it. Holy mackerel, I heard also. Amarnath, Bob, you comment on deep sleep state in waking, stillness of mind, is awareness of awareness. Can you comment on deep sleep state in waking, stillness of mind, awareness of awareness?
Yeah, I say there's awareness of your unawareness. Then.
Yeah.
So you can't wake up and you say, I slept well. How would you know I slept well? Because you don't remember it or anything, but to be able to say that, there must be an awareness that everything was going all right. It was unawareness.
Yeah.
So that awareness, we can't say what awareness is really, but you can't negate it. Just the same as you can't give it a label. You can say it's wakefulness, it's this, that or the other, but that's just a concept you've got to. But there's nobody who is unaware right now.
Yeah.
That awareness is there whether you say you're aware or not. You know you are not what we'd call unaware. There's a knowing of the not knowing, in other words.
Yeah. And Amarnath, answering to the quote that God said of Nisargadatta, no traces, reminiscences, reflections after emotions mirroring over. Thanks for this, Kat. And Judith says, perfect. And I think that's it. I'll have a look if there's anything more. No. I think that's a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah, there's been a beautiful lot of statements, quotes, or whatever, questions, whatever you like to put them. A lot of people really got the taste of it and grasping it.
Now we have whole family together. There's another cat on the other side. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for participating.
Yeah, thank you all. Yeah.
Yeah, see how happy it makes the beautiful man when he sees that the message finds home, resonates, and is mirrored and reflected back at him. That's just, it's nothing like it. It's like keep showing up and doing it. That's
every seeming body, every seeming mind, everything seeming thing is that already.
Yes.
And each one, each pattern, shape and form is a unique expression. So if it's a unique expression, there must be unique ways of saying it or expressing it, coming out, or seeing it coming out.
Yes.
And allow it to happen.
Yes. We have one more. The essence that is seeing time has caught up with us, and it's time for lunch. Thank you, God and Bob, for sharing your time with us. Thanks for all who commented and gave stimulating questions. Thank you.
That's John David?
That's yes.
Thank you, John David.
And thank you for your participation and your being and your presence in our life. We do really
Yeah.
love you. And yes, then we have thank you messages. And Tanya also thanking us and everyone for the lovely expressions, and so much gratitude for all the pointers to recognize. Yeah, so lots of love and thank you.
Thank you. Love you.